story of Vicky the Viking by Runar Jonsson, which got adapted into an anime series, had a significant influence on One Piece. Join me on this nostalgic journey as we explore some unexpected connections between the two stories. In the year 1975, on January 1st, the creator of the manga One Piece, Eiichirō Oda, was born. Even to this day, he continues to inspire many new mangaka with his work of fiction, which has accompanied us fans throughout our lives for over 25 years. Some of you might even be younger than the manga itself. It was the 22nd July 1997 that the first chapter of One Piece was released in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine. Just 2 years, 3 months and 1 day later, the first episode of the One Piece anime, produced by Toei Animation, aired on Japanese TV. Oda shared with his fans, "It's been 20 years and the first episode still makes me cry." I believe Oda's tears are not simply because the first episode was great or incredibly well animated. Rather, I think he cries because it's every mangaka's dream to see their work animated. Witnessing his creation come to life must have been a groundbreaking experience for him. As a child, Oda already loved watching anime, and his biggest influence is Akira Toriyama and his series Dragon Ball, which remains one of his favorite manga to this day. I can completely understand this because I too loved watching Dragon Ball when I was little. The adventures of the young Son Goku were unlike anything I had seen before. I was born in 1988 in the former German Democratic Republic. Now imagine this. It's mind-boggling to me. At the time when the Iron Curtain was still in place, Dragon Ball had already been running for over 2 years. And 2 months before the Iron Curtain fell, Super Saiyans were already a thing in Japan. The first episode of Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, aired on German television on August 30th, 1999. Can you imagine? It took over 10 years to reach German TV. In the US, it aired on September 24th, 1996. Dragon Ball Z didn't air in Germany until 2001. Okay, I don't want to deviate too much from the topic. Here's what I'm getting at. For Japanese anime greatness to reach Western audiences back then, it took a long time. And that's also the reason why I grew up with Vicky the Viking. The anime was a collaboration between Japanese, Austrian and German TV networks. The Austrian and German channels, named ORF and ZDF, commissioned the Japanese animation studio Suyo Enterprise to produce an anime series based on the original literary work of Runar Jonsson, named Viking Vicky. Vicky und die starken Männer did air in West Germany in 1975 and a bit later in many other countries. I maybe saw it around 1993 for the first time. In Japan, the anime aired on the 31st of January 1974. As you can see, it's even older than Eiichirō Oda himself, and he also liked the series. In an interview with Viz, he mentioned once that he was heavily influenced by Vicky. Ever since I was little, I liked pirates. As a child, I really enjoyed an anime series called Vicky the Little Viking. It was about a little kid who admired Vikings, and his dream was to become one of them when he grew up. As I researched pirates for One Piece, I realized that Vikings are a type of pirate. You may notice, Vicky's admiration for Vikings and Luffy's admiration for pirates reveal intriguing parallels, and there are even more connections to explore. In this video, I will delve deeper into Vicky's influence on One Piece and highlight the most significant parallels that caught my attention. The Vicky the Viking series consists of 78 episodes, each lasting 25 minutes. The plot, as expected for a show aimed at young children, is relatively straightforward. The series revolved around the main character Vicky, who is the son of Halvard, the chief of the Viking village of Flake. Unlike the other villagers and his friends of the same age, Vicky is not the biggest and strongest among them. However, he possesses a keen and imaginative mind, which proves instrumental in helping his fellow Vikings overcome various challenging situations. Allow me to introduce you to the main characters of the story. First, we have Vicky, a boy of around 9 years old. As mentioned earlier, he may not be the strongest, but he possesses excellent problem-solving skills. Similar to Luffy's admiration for Shanks' crew, Vicky idolized the other Vikings. He loves listening to his father's stories and yearns to join him on his adventures, aspiring to become a brave warrior of the sea and explore different lands. His father Halvar is the chief of the village Flake. After losing to Vicky in a stone transporting contest in the first episode, Halvar is more than willing to take his son along on future journeys. While Halvar may have been an inspiration for Vicky, he differs from Shanks in many aspects. Ylva, Vicky's mother and Halvar's wife, didn't seem to provide much inspiration for Oda, as there are no mothers in One Piece. As Oda once stated, mother is the antonym for adventure. Ture and Snorre are the two crewmates who are constantly at odds, reminiscent of the dynamic between Zora and Sanji in One Piece. Urobe, the village druid and the oldest Viking in Halvar's crew, is not as imaginative as Vicky, but possesses extensive knowledge of sagas and legends. In a way, he resembles Robin as the crew archaeologist. Faxe, the biggest and strongest among our heroes, may be somewhat slow but shares a close big brother-like relationship with Vicky. He could have been an inspiration for Jinbei, as both Luffy and Jinbei have a special bond. Gorm, a rather excitable member of the Flake Vikings, serves as the lookout on Halvar's ship. In some way, he may be comparable to Chopper, as he is easily impressed. Finally, we have Ulme, the village bard. He is a poetic individual who carries a harp and enjoys playing it on joyous occasions. Ulme's presence might have influenced the idea of including a musician into Luffy's crew. Perhaps you have already noticed that some of the characters bear a striking resemblance to certain characters from One Piece. Let's start with Vicky. We actually saw Vicky in chapter 1076. A small giant kid who begs Shanks to take him on his ship. It's quite funny because he really looks up to Shanks despite being bigger than him. Vicky's father Halvar could be the inspiration for Saul, as both of them sport a very big shaggy red beard and hair. Also, Saul could be the one to wear the eye patch, as Halvar is wearing one too. Ture and Snorre are basically Kashi and Oimo. Just take a look at them and you will see the similarities. Although the constant fighting aspect could also be applied to Dory and Broggy. We don't have a giant character who perfectly fits Urobe yet. Maybe Ja Rule or Jo Rule. But honestly, I don't see much resemblance beside them being old. When it comes to Faxe, two characters come to mind. San Juan Wolf or Morley. However, considering Faxe's gentle nature, Morley might be the better fit. As for Gorm and Ulme, they are on the same boat as Urobe. We might see future giants who resemble them, perhaps even Loki. Now, let's not forget the antagonist of the Vicky series, the terrible Sven. It seems Kaido is based on him, as both have shaggy black hair and beard, along with wielding a huge Morning Star-like weapon. Now that you know all the crewmates and their resemblance to One Piece characters, it's time to search for clues in the episodes. As I mentioned before, there are 78 episodes and not all of them hold leads that can be connected to One Piece. However, some of them do, and they hold a lot of potential. Let's begin with episode 19. In this episode, the Vikings find themselves held hostage by the Magyar army. Their plan to transport their ship from one river to another by land using logs is foiled when the Magyar soldiers steal the logs, leaving the Vikings stranded. However, with Vicky's help, they come up with a clever solution. They construct large kites made of animal furs, and using this innovative method, their ship takes flight into the sky. With this invention, they successfully escape from the clutches of the Magyar army. When I watched this episode, it instantly reminded me of the Thousand Sunny's escape from Garp and the Marines at Water 7, aided by the Coup de Burst maneuver. While the way the ships take off into the air might be different, both scenarios involve escaping an enemy force by utilizing a vessel intended for sailing the seas rather than the sky. It's safe to assume that Oda drew inspiration from this episode. Episode 25 holds significant importance. Faxe is out fishing on his boat when suddenly, a ghost ship emerges. He promptly alerts the village and Halvar and his crew make the decision to investigate. Allow me to present you some side-by-side clips, as visuals can convey more than words alone. Now, do I need to say anything about this? Isn't this crazy? But there's more in this episode that could hold leads for the story of One Piece. Maybe even way more. I will come back to this at the end, as I try to connect the dots throughout this video. The next example may not hold as much significance as the others, but nonetheless it could have served as inspiration for the creation of Little Garden in One Piece. In this episode, Vicky and his friends stumble upon a volcanic island. As Vicky accidentally falls into a crater, he encounters a dinosaur, who places him beside its eggs. Later, both eggs hatch and Vicky is eventually discovered. Together with the dinosaurs, the crew manages to escape from the sinking and erupting island. Just as Vicky admires all the other Vikings, I admire all the other big One Piece YouTubers. So maybe you can help me become one of them. You can do that by subscribing to the channel and maybe even press the like button. It would mean a lot to me if you could do that. Thank you very much. A wolf plays the major role in the next one. Vicky is trying to escape the carnivore and ends up on top of the tree. His father Halvar passes by, but instead of helping Vicky, he laughs about him and encourages Vicky to solve the problem himself. This gave me some Garp vibes, as he too was extremely harsh to Luffy when he was a child. Here's another intriguing example. The ship and its crew make a stop at the kingdom of Pali or Thales. In some versions it's Thales and in some Pali. Pali and Thales are located in India and Greece. I don't know why the names differ here. During their visit, Vicky encounters a princess named Françoise, who is attempting to escape from soldiers sent by her kingdom to bring her back to the palace. Doesn't the scenario sound strikingly similar to Vivi? Françoise joins the crew for a day trip on the ship to experience the sea. However, unlike Vivi, she does not have to confront an evil crocodile that seeks to take over her kingdom. Consequently, by the end of the day, she safely returns to her people without further complications. In another episode, the crew encounters yet another ghost ship, but this time it holds not only treasures, but also a mysterious treasure chest. The Vikings eagerly load the chest onto their ship, expecting to find gold inside. However, to their astonishment, the chest contains not precious metals, but a young boy with red hair. To be fair, the boy is not a baby, but rather a young child. Unlike the mysterious circumstances surrounding Shanks as a newborn, this boy simply ran away from home for some reasons. Do you remember the story of Sindri? She inherited the shadow of Margarita, a young maid who had a peculiar dislike for plates despite her attempts to cope with it. This aversion to plates was also passed down to Sindri through the shadow's inheritance. She would often throw plates at others and even serve food without them. In one episode of Vicky, we come across a traveling storyteller who goes from village to village, captivating children with his tales. Is it possible that the reason behind Margarita's intense hatred for plates is unveiled through one of these stories? One such story revolves around a girl named Anna, who was an orphan and worked in her aunt's household. While cleaning, she accidentally dropped an expensive plate and pleaded for her aunt's forgiveness. However, her aunt harshly banished her from the house, leaving her to wander through a cold winter night, desperately calling out to her deceased mother to call her to her side. Unfortunately, we do not know the conclusion of the story, as the storyteller does not finish it. What a bummer. But maybe it's exactly the story that happened to Margarita, and Oda just wanted to bring the story to an end. In the final episode of Vicky, the King of Denmark seeks the assistance of the Vikings of Lake, as an impending war between Denmark and Sweden looms. Vicky, who has never been particularly fond of battles and tended to shy away from them, gathers his courage and willingly joins his crew to aid in the conflict. This turn of events reminded me of Usopp, who aspired to become a brave warrior of the sea in the world of One Piece. I highly recommend watching the video titled Usopp's Fables, the True Power of a Noble Liar. It provides valuable insights into Usopp's character and sheds light on the depths of his personality. Now we reach the truly intriguing parts. As promised, let's revisit the ghost ship with Brook on it. But before that, there's another fascinating connection. In one episode, the crew comes across a massive whale that causes their ship to run aground on a small island. Along the island's coast there is a stone circle, within which a baby whale is trapped. Desperately trying to reunite with its mother, the crew decides to help the baby whale and finds a way to lift it out of the stone circle and back to its mother. Vicky uses the horn from his helmet as an instrument to lure the small whale, and once it is reunited with its mother, they sail together for a while, with Vicky using the horn to attract the young whale. I firmly believe that this is the 100% inspiration for Laboon in One Piece. Laboon, unable to return to its family, was drawn to the music of the Rumba pirates and followed their ship. It can't be any clearer than that. Interestingly, towards the end of the episode, our Vikings encounter the terrible Sven, who attempts to attack them. However, the rescued whale and its mother come to their aid and attack Sven's ship. You cannot convince me otherwise, as I am convinced that a similar event will occur in One Piece, where Laboon and its family will come to the aid of the crew. When I saw this, I could hardly believe it. Just like the ghost ship with the skeleton on it, it is clear as day that Oda drew inspiration from this series, as he himself has mentioned. Now, as promised, let's go back to the ghost ship episode, because at the end of it, Vicky finds an empty chest on the vessel. He stumbles into it and it closes. It is not entirely empty though. There is a map in it that leads to a treasure island which turns out to be Greenland. Now in the next episode, Vicky and the crew travel to the frozen continent to find the treasure. They encounter some obstacles but are at some point finally able to locate the entrance to a cave. In it is a palace made out of ice, and after walking for a while, they find a huge mountain of gold and other valuables. Overjoyed, they try to jump on it and dig through the mountain of wealth, but are stopped in mid-air because it turns out the treasure is frozen behind a solid clear wall of ice. Now doesn't this remind you of Don Shinjao? His treasure at the jewel ice sheet was frozen within the very thick ice, and only he was able to get it out with his famous drill head. And now look at this scene. Doesn't this shadow look a lot like Imu? Why show it exactly like this? Why not simply display the treasure? Why juxtapose it with the shadow of his drill head? It reminds me of the scene with Absalom, opening the massive door at Thriller Bark, casting a long cone-shaped shadow. Now we have a similar instance where the treasure is concealed within the ice, accompanied by the shadow. When we contemplate something frozen, it's natural to think of Nico Robin, but in this case, I'm referring to the straw hat scene in the scene with Imu. And that's not all. You remember that Gecko Moria found Or's body in the Land of Ice? Coincidence? I think not. You wanna know what I'm getting at here? Sure. What if the One Piece is hidden in a very cold place? It is frozen, maybe even underneath or between very thick ice, just like Don Jinjao's treasure. Just like the treasure in Vicky's adventure. Oars found out where the One Piece was located, or at least learned that it's at a very cold place, and went there to get it, but he didn't make it. Maybe this is the reason why the world government builds this huge bridge at the Killer Wolf. They know the probable location of the One Piece, but for some reason it is required to build a bridge. Maybe because you cannot reach it with a ship, or because to obtain it you will have to break the ice and then you are bound to die underneath it. Just think about the prisoners in Punk Hazard. They are frozen behind thick ice. I'm certain that it's got to be something like that. The One Piece or another very important relic or entity is buried underneath thick ice, and the only way to retrieve it is by destroying it. You might say that it's maybe not enough to prove this idea, but there is another episode that further supports this thesis. The Prince of Molothan is stranded at the beach near Vicky's village, and they find him and carry him to their home. There, the prince reveals that his father passed away in the previous year. Before his father's death, he imparted to his sons the wisdom that a ruler must be wise and brave, but only the one who retrieves the golden sword from the top of a tower near the coast of Iceland can become king. Both of his older brothers set out to the sea to obtain the sword, but they never returned. Unfortunately, the prince met the same fate. The Vikings agreed to retrieve the sword for the prince. Not out of pure kindness, but because Halvar and his men have ulterior moves to become king and ministers of Molothan. Halvar and his men hastily leave the house and board their ship to retrieve the sword. However, the prince couldn't disclose that the tower will crumble as soon as someone tries to take the sword from its top, burying everyone underneath it. Fortunately, Vicky overhears the last part of the conversation and manages to catch up to them in time by water skiing with the help of his two seal friends. Later, with the aid of the flying device Vicky constructs, he retrieves the sword from the top of the tower and escapes it without being crushed. He then flies back to his village with the assistance of the seals and the device, delivering the sword to the prince before his father and his crew return home. In this adventure, we encounter yet another treasure situated in a high place that begins to crumble once removed. The sword is also golden. Just as the tower, the ice palace mentioned in the episode before, starts crumbling as soon as the Vikings try to retrieve the treasure. They manage to escape, but the treasure is buried forever. Interestingly, straw has often been metaphorically referred to as gold. There's an old German fairy tale called Rumpelstilzchen, which has also been translated into English as Rumpelstiltskin. In this tale, a miller boasts to the king and the people of the kingdom that his daughter can spin straw into gold. Intrigued, the king summons the girl and locks her in a tower room, filled with straw and a spinning wheel, giving her the ultimatum to spin the straw into gold by morning or face death. When the girl loses all hope, a little imp-like man appears and offers to spin the straw into gold in exchange for her necklace. I won't tell you the whole story now, maybe most of you know it already anyway. But with this we get another interesting take on a golden object in a high place. What is there that's golden and located in a high place in One Piece? That's right, the symbol of the sun, the straw hat hidden within the secret chamber of Eiichirō. What if the entire inside of the red line is made out of ice? Take a look at this panel when the revolutionary army hides underneath Eiichirō thanks to Mori's ability. Call me crazy, but is that a kotatsu? For those who don't know a kotatsu, it is a low wooden table frame covered by a futon or heavy blanket, with a tabletop placed on it. It has a heat source, traditionally a charcoal brazier, but now electric, often built into the table itself. Morley is even sitting on a large blanket, and before you ask how they would carry all that stuff, well, there is a huge backpack right there. I looked it up in the anime, but there everything is made out of earth. But still, even then, these things are intentionally drawn to look like a kotatsu and a blanket, I am sure. Now, I know this room doesn't look like ice, but they are fairly close to the surface. I think it's very possible that the deeper inside the red line they go, the colder and icier it becomes. And why not? We can see Imo walking down long stairs to reach the vault where the straw hat is stored. So it's safe to assume that it's deep within the red line. There are already theories suggesting that the red line will be destroyed to create the all blue. My ideas just add further evidence to those theories. The red line is bound to fall, and I claim it will happen as soon as the giant straw hat is removed from its place, because for some reason it has to stay there to keep the wall itself intact. Ice is an ongoing element in One Piece. Throughout all the chapters, again and again we see objects or frozen people. Remember when Usopp built the Snow Queen? Some people suggested it's a foreshadowing for Imo. The newest chapter revealed that Imo has some kind of shadow powers, but it does not mean that Imo has nothing to do with ice. I've already made a connection to Imo and ice in one of my older videos about the big shadows in the Florian Triangle. Go and look that one up. Anyway, as cold as the topic of this video might have become thanks to all the ice, the story of Vicky written by Runar Jonsson is a heartwarming story, which has undeniably served as a source of inspiration for Eiichirō Oda in various ways. If you invest the time to thoroughly watch every episode or read the book, you may discover additional clues that reinforce this connection. However, I believe we can already reach a consensus that the findings I have presented to you are quite compelling. But there's one more thing. People claim that Oda once said that Akainu would be able to find the One Piece within a year. I tried to look this up and it seems that the right translation is more like this. So when creating a character, one needs to be careful not to make them too strong. For example, if Akainu was the main character, the series wouldn't last a year. And then he laughs. Now, surely we can interpret this in many ways. But if it really means that the series wouldn't last a year because Akainu is able to find the One Piece so quick, doesn't this just add more to my theory? He could easily melt through all the ice. It doesn't matter what exactly is frozen, whether it is really the One Piece or maybe the Rio Poneglyph. Akainu would be able to reach it in no time. Today's sponsor is Era of Kings, a giant One Piece MMORPG server which allows for anyone to play however they want, with over 50 classes and devil fruits, each one being unique and having its own niche. What is waiting for you is a very welcoming community and constant player activity, along with content that can last for endless hours of playtime. Go and explore the Grand Line or fight a Yonko in the New World. This server has a custom equipment system with over 500 items to choose from. This stat system allows you to create your own path, choose whatever fruit you like and customize your own combat style and way of fighting. No two players will be the same, from the equipment, the stats, the devil fruit, the style of fighting and so much more. Explore expansive unique custom lore with no spoilers, allowing for anyone, even longtime One Piece fans, to have a good time exploring a new world with the new One Piece content. So come along, bring your dreams and forge a new path in the giant world of One Piece. Era of Kings. Use code MARV in the store if you are planning to buy anything to support me.